All my friends, Sarah Lassek. We did it.
We did it.
It's here.
It took a minute.
I don't even care. I used to get tripped up on that because I used to be like, so schedule it. It needs to be this day and I need this episode to come out. And then it's just kind of life. And sometimes like it's not the right time to do a podcast or there's lots going on. And anytime it's been a long time coming guest, I now have the mindset of like, this is exactly when it should be. No sooner, no later.
Yep.
So this is the
Love
time.
it. So glad to be here.
I'm so excited. And for a listener who doesn't know the reason that I'm excited, like I had this morning where I'm like making coffee, thinking about this podcast. And I'm like, I can't believe I get to do this. And I'm so excited because there are certain guests that I have on where there's little ties in their stories or moments that I'm genuinely so fascinated in. And you're kind of low key, like for how much you've done and accomplished. It's not like you can search your name and find a million podcasts and interviews. And I find guests like yourself so rad and I learn so much. So like I started this morning off and I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm so excited for this one. So
I hope I can live up to it.
Yeah, right. Don't fuck up.
Impart some wisdom. Yeah.
For a listener who doesn't know who you are, just a quick explanation of who you are and what you do. And then I'll kind of take it back to the early days.
I mean, I guess I'm a businesswoman, and in terms of my career, and have kind of had a very non-linear career path. And so started out in finance and then moved into fashion for about 20 years. So that was the crux of my life, and now in automotive. And so kind of this weird string of following my passions, lots of fits and starts. I've been on the business side, building brands, sales, strategy, that kind of a thing, leading teams. So it's been a journey, but that's probably the easiest way to describe it.
Yeah, there's so many bits of your story that I don't know. And the moment where I was like, I need to have you on is when Micah Hayku came and did the podcast and told me that you were his boss at Tom's. And I was like, are we talking about the same person? Like, what?
Yeah.
Where did it start? Like, that's always a spot that I'm pretty curious of. It's like, at a young age, did you know that you wanted to pursue the career that you ended up having? Or like, did you go to college and like kind of have something in mind? Was there a moment where you saw something and you were like, yo, this, like, take me back to those days where it starts beginning?
It's a good question. And like I said, it's an odd path. So growing up, I had three passions. I was a competitive swimmer. I loved fashion and I loved cars. And I do not know why I loved cars. I have no family. I don't have a dad. I don't have a brother. I just was obsessed with cars. In fact, my mom sent me an essay framed that I wrote in fourth grade called Cars. So for some reason, it just has always been an obsession of mine. So as I burn out on swimming. So that did not turn out to be, my Olympic dreams, died in high school. But, I just kind of, I didn't know what I wanted to do with any of those things. And I think when you think about things like fashion and cars, no idea what to do with that. It's like, oh, can I be a race car driver or can I be a buyer? I just didn't know. So I just went, I had a kind of a frustrating path getting through college. So I got into Boulder. I was a straight A high school student. For family drama, for people that have family drama, I ended up getting pulled out of Boulder and ended up at Santa Barbara City College. And I was like bitter and pissed about it because I'm like, I'm a straight A student. Why am I at a city college? But again, it's like life does.
It was just circumstance. Like it was just,
And it was one of the best things that could have happened. So this is like, by the way, this is a common theme in my life. It's like the things that you don't expect or you don't want end up being the things that kind of get you to that next,
that is like one of those 2020 hindsight moments where I think about that too. And it's such bullshit in the moment. You're like, I have to deal with this. Yeah. And it's not sometimes till years later where you're like, that actually kind of worked out. Yeah. Because in the moment it sucks.
Yeah.
And always.
Yeah. So it was great. And I, ended up, long kind of story, ended up at SMU in Dallas, which, as a California girl, I grew up near Berkeley, and you land in Dallas and it was a little bit like landing on Mars, could not have been a more different thing. But again, just another experience. And I went to school for business because I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Getting a business degree feels like the right thing to do. And so graduated from SMU. And another thing, again, you get kind of sucked into the world. They wanted me to stay in Texas. And no, they wanted me to go to LA and I wanted to stay in Texas. Don't ask.
Wow.
Like,
okay.
It was like, you get sort of brainwashed, I guess. So I ended up getting moved to LA for a job, and I was in corporate finance, and it was working for a bank, and it was the world's most boring job known to man. Like, it was so terrible.
Whoa. Interesting question there,
Yeah.
because I certainly have cars as the parallel with you. I think for me, it wasn't swimming and fashion, but I had cars, skateboarding, photography. Like that was the things that I loved. And then later on, a little bit of music. But I never knew that there could be a career in automotive. So I always figured I had to find a job that made a lot of money so I could buy the cool cars that I wanted. Yeah. So was that a little bit of your finance logic of just like, all right, it might be boring, but maybe it can fund the stuff I love?
To go down the human side for a sec, I grew up, my parents got divorced and I was very young, and I grew up with a single mom who just, I watched her bust her ass. I watched her raise 2 kids with nothing. You know, and knowing what she went through, you know, as a young girl and a young woman, you're like, I will never find myself in that position. And how do I take care of myself? I can't rely. I mean, you know, you go pick children of divorce. You can't rely on some man. You've got to you got to fight your way. And so part of this was like, okay, this is the safe thing. And this is the like career path that will get me to stability and like, you know,
like you kind of have this extra armor of like, you need to be independent and like, you need to like look out for yourself kind of thing.
Yeah.
So this was just something where you're like, okay, cool. Like these steps, I can follow it. It's a thing. Like I go get an education, do this. Here's the path. Here's stability, everything.
It was like the right thing. You know, you do the right thing.
Was there any bit of that was fulfilling? Like, was there any amount or like kind of in it as you were doing it? Were you like, yo, like I could do this forever? Or like, damn, there's got to be something more?
I could definitely not do it forever.
Yeah.
But it was, you know, before I left SMU, I actually interned at Neiman Marcus over the summer. So they had this like buyer training program. So you could like work in the buying office and work in the store. And that was kind of my first foray into fashion. So I kind of had that in the back of my mind for a little bit, but I was like, oh, I don't know how to do, I don't want to be a buyer. I don't know what to do. So there was something with the finance where I was like, okay, this is a good business experience. Maybe this will translate, but I knew that particular avenue was not for me. And so I lasted about like a year and a half and ended up then moving into working for Sony. And Sony was building this massive entertainment center in San Francisco called Metreon. So was able to like kind of go crazy and, you know, build this like marketplace, do business development, sponsorship, you know, partnerships and all that stuff. So it was like a crash course in business and like life. That's and like
insane.
Using my business, you know, and that's where I was like, oh, okay, the finance paid off. It was good.
Okay. Was that Sony Entertainment? Was that Sony like consumer electronics or like what Sony is such a big thing? Like what umbrella was that?
It was this new arm called Sony Development. And it was basically all we did was spend money. Like we had a lot of former Disney guys and we were building these like life-size, you know, entertainment, you know, things. It was still to this day was one of the most fun and most like educational jobs I've ever had.
Wow. Just like the right moment. Like they were just focusing on really cool stuff and you got to be a part of that.
Yeah. I think they were like sick. Before their time. Yeah. So a lot of it was like, we did an interactive gaming, you know, area where we had our staff built the games and you could like live interact in person. It was like, I think it was just too early for its time and you know, but it was incredible and an incredible kind of crash course in all things partnerships and sponsorships, which would really inform my future life.
Yeah.
But then they closed the division because we just spent too much money and, you know, it didn't work. And so that's when I took the plunge and I was like, okay, I don't know what I want to do. And actually I took a quick job at Edmunds.com for like 2 seconds, which was the review
like the
site.
Online reviews. And I think they do like car sales a little bit, maybe. Yeah.
So it was like the car thing was in there, but I didn't love that. And I decided, I'm like, no, I'm just going to go into fashion full time. You know, it was sort of this like make or break moment. And I went back to FITM. I went to the Fashion Institute.
Oh, no way. So you went back to school for it?
Back to school
as
an old person. Yeah.
I have questions around this because this is important. This is formative. How old were you around this time?
I would have been 28.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like
27, 28.
That's actually nuts because a lot of times people at that age will kind of be comfortable and in their lane, and like going back to school is, I don't know, humbling is the right word, but like it's a real reinvention of yourself. Like you could have just been established in a lane. And also it didn't really sound like there were people in your family in that industry. So
No.
you were kind of alone in that decision.
Yeah.
So like, how did you get there? What was your personal thought process to be like, I'm 28, I'm done with this crazy Sony thing. Where do I go now?
It was a little of an out of body kind of moment because of my nature. I'm very, I'm very organized. I'm very like, I'm going to do the right thing from a career standpoint. But it was kind of this moment where it was a make or break, and I don't know, maybe it was just like one of those things you're like, I'm just going to do this, which was really out of character. But I do, and this is a common theme. And I think it's one of the things that if I were to have like one word or one thing of, wisdom to impart is that never be afraid to keep reinventing. Like I've had now 3 careers, not jobs, but careers, and it's scary and weird, but it was the thing. And it was like, to me in my mind, it was the only way that I was going to be able to make that leap wholeheartedly. And I was like, I'm just going to commit to this thing.
I think that's an incredible lesson. And it's something that I end up talking about a lot on the podcast. Like I went from music to automotive and did a bunch of stuff in between. And I don't want to say you feel like a failure at the time, but you just feel lost. Like you're just like, well, fuck, now what? Like the thing that I loved the most is now not really an option. What do I do?
Yep.
And that turmoil, those in-between moments are crazy. So to know that you've had the success that you've had in your career, but also know that you've had to reinvent it a couple of times is actually like really encouraging. Like I think that's a cool thing to share.
Especially now, because I do think there's more avenues to get to places where then it was people just didn't do that as much.
Yeah.
And because I was that age, which not obviously old, but compared, I showed up at FITM with a bunch of 18-year-olds.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, I am the oldest person here. It's kind of crazy.
I was going to say humbling, but I don't know if that's necessarily the word, but it's just like, it's a risk. It's a change.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you go there. And then did you have an idea of where that could lead to? Or are you just like, all right, let's just see what happens?
To me, it was really, really helpful because again, I didn't really know the industry. I didn't know what you could be. So it's like in your mind, you're like a designer or buyer. I just didn't understand. So I didn't have a preconceived notion of what I would do. And it was the thing that opened the doors and taught me more about, it was only a 1 year because I've already been to college. So it was like this professional designation program, like an AA degree.
Yeah.
But it opened the doors to understand what I could do. And so it was the thing that taught me about the wholesale sales industry, which I knew nothing about. I'm like, oh, on the other side of the buyer,
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what I graduated and started to do was to go into sales.
Was it easy to find a job out of FITM?
Not easy, but not hard. And only I think because there was like some assistant or coordinator job. And I was like, no, because I've already been, a senior manager. I've always done this, that. So I kind of like, pushed my way into a sales manager job at a company called St. John down in Orange County.
Okay.
So it was, it's an entry level job, but it was like a step above like a coordinator. And I think, but I don't think it's that hard necessarily. You just have to be willing to try shit. Like you have to be willing to just roll up your sleeves and do the things that need to be done for the people that need you to do it. And sometimes that can be humbling.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So you like kept the right attitude, but you also knew that you were like starting over a little bit. Yeah. So you're like, not full entry level, but here's a spot where I'll prove myself. I'll do what I got to do.
Yeah.
As you got into that, did you start to have like clues of like, okay, yeah, I actually really like this? Or like, did it feel different from finance? And did it feel like, because by that time, like you've had some life experience.
Yeah.
Were you like, I'm on to the right thing? Or were you like, I don't know?
No, it really did feel like, the company itself, this is the thing in sales, like you ideally would like to be selling something that you love and feel passionate about. The company itself, it made very formal, kind of beautiful, like designer level, but like for older women, it was not like a young person's, line. And it was, but the training was incredible. So they were very structured and like very, and so it was like the best as I got further in my career and I started to lead teams and I started to train people. And I was like, thank God I had the crazy, St. John experience, which was a little painful at the time, but they taught a base level of professionalism that was not really seen in fashion. Yeah. So, but I felt like I was onto something and I was working with really incredible, like young women. We were traveling. I was going to New York. I was, showing buyers and like getting introduced to this world. And you're like, oh my God, I'm
Sick. Okay. So like it was very much fulfilling on that side of like young you, where that was something you looked to and didn't really know. You're like, okay, I'm doing it. Like I'm doing the trips. I'm meeting the people. I'm selling the thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And
so
you
that's like
that later. Like you get so, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead,
No,
but
please.
like you get jaded, you know, and you get, it's like the things that where your passions turn into your jobs and you're just like, oh God, you know, this is just painful. And you just stop and take a moment where you're watching these, you know, younger people come in and you're like, oh, right. Like that was so shiny and it was so like incredible and like mind blowing that I was, later I would go to like runway shows and you're like, how am I here? You know, you forget that.
Yeah. Because you accomplish it and then entitled is maybe the wrong word, but you earn it.
Yeah.
Like you get there and you do earn your place and then it becomes regular.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, yeah, I've done the things and I've earned my spot here. So then it's like, oh, well, are you going to X fashion week or X thing? And it's like, well, yeah, of course. Whereas before it was like
I don't want to go.
Young you were like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a weird one. I've experienced that in different industries and different times. And you always look at that like wide-eyed kid and you're like, must be nice.
I know. And like we lose him or her, you know, and it's just one of those things I think you have to like stop and reassess, you know, a lot.
But that self-awareness, I think like I can get it back pretty quick.
Yeah.
Like I can pretty much like anytime like where I'll feel it, I'll stop and I'll just completely reassess and look around and be like, all right, no, it's sick.
This is cool.
Sick.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So you're doing that and it's like the moment of you really making it in that lane. You're getting introduced to the people, you're traveling, you're learning a ton. What happens next? Because again, I know you've worked with some fucking crazy companies.
Crazy people. I ended up moving to New York.
Okay.
So I left St. John and I was like, you know what? I was driving. So it was in Orange County. I was living in Santa Monica and I was fucking miserable. Like,
Really?
you know, driving, I would get up at like 4:30 in the morning, go down there, work out, you know, because the traffic for people that don't live in LA, like, you know, driving to Orange County is purgatory. So I was like, I'm shedding my car. I'm going to New York. I'm going to be in fashion. Like if you're going to be in fashion, right? Like you have to be in New York. And I just felt like I'm going. And that it was a little crazy. Like there's a part of me sometimes, like I'm a weird dichotomy of a person because I'm a rule follower, but I hate rules.
Yeah.
I'm very like, no, do the right thing. But I was like, fuck it. I'm just doing it.
Yeah.
And I literally went to New York, went and set up, like I had a couple of my buyers when I was at St. John, set some appointments up, but I just cold called like all these people's dumping rain. Like for people who know New York, you're just like, I'm so unprepared. I'm from California. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And I remember walking into all these different, you know, designer offices. And I was like, who am I? And how the hell am I doing this? And I don't know. I don't know what takes over, but it's just this like will to do it. And I landed a job at BCBG and moved to New York. And it was like, you know, I remember I was subletting a 5th floor walk up in Hell's Kitchen. And I remember like had to pull the mattress on the floor because there was like parties next door. And I woke up in the middle of the night with like a mouse staring at me. And I was like, what have I done? Like, what have I done? And I was like 30 years old at the time. So, you know, you're like, I've left this kind of comfortable life in LA to come here. And, you know, New York kicks your ass. New York is...
I can't hang.
And this is, you know, long before there was one Whole Foods. There was no Trader Joe's. Like I lived Lower East Side when I finally moved into my place. And you're just like, but it was such a pivotal experience, like both from the job front and being in fashion and being with, you know, BCBG is a big multi-global brand and, you know, being able to like work in that environment. And it was hell. Like you watch Devil Wears Prada and there's a lot of that is not far from the truth.
Really?
You got like Max and they're smoking and yelling at you in French and you're just like, what am I doing? And lugging shit all over New York. And so fashion is not that glamorous. And I think that's like anything probably music or anything else you learned that there's not that glamorous.
There's like the, I don't know, 20% of it that feels like the cool parts that people think it is. And then the other 80 you're like, fuck. Yeah.
But another one where, you know, my president, Robert Bronstein, was this, you know, older, just old school sales guy. And again, it's like one of those really pivotal things where you're like, I hate this guy. I fucking like this. You like, you get to your desk and you'd be like, Sarah, please come to my office. And you'd have to like, you're in the bathroom and they're tracking you down. And it's just like, you're everyone's like bitch. And you're like, ugh, I don't want to do this. Even though you're like you're not his assistant, but you have to just suck it up and do it.
Like swallow that little bit of pride.
A lot of pride.
Like,
a lot of pride is swallowed.
It's interesting learning your story in real time. Like you've always known what you're worth and you've like had a lot of great professional experience and been so structured, yet you have had these like fuck it moments and like really taken these leaps of faith. But it seems like that gives you more and more grit every time. It's the weird thing of like, you know what you're worth, you know how to do the thing, but then you'll do these crazy pivots and have these humbling experiences where you won't be above things. And it seems like that's been opening up more and more doors in the story.
It's interesting that you put it that way, because maybe this is all coming to come clear for me, because even up till Omaze, which was, my last role, I have a very hard time. This is the, follow rules, but hate them. And I have had a lot of issues in my career where I know the right thing is, what the right thing is to do, whether it's for the business, whether it's for my team, whether it's for me personally. And I know that like leadership or the president or the owner or the founder is, doing the wrong thing. And I inevitably can't shut my mouth. Like I can't stay there, and I can't, ask anyone that has worked with or for me, that I go to bat. And it has oftentimes bitten me in the ass, and I've dealt with it sometimes better and sometimes worse than I should. And it's kind of one of those, it's probably one of the biggest learning experiences in my career is how to channel that kind of fight and that like making sure that you still feel confident, because I've also had my confidence just absolutely shattered by a lot of these. Unfortunately, a lot of them are like men, and you're just like, you just feel like I don't know anything, I'm useless. And you're like, how do you bottle that confidence and then present it in a way that gets you what you want, but you're not like fighting?
That I've been kind of thinking that whole thing in my head as you've been explaining your story, where it's a rare mix, but I love it. And there's still so much more of your story where I'm curious how it's played out. Because I was thinking, like when you said the men thing, I was like, knowing how deep you are in cars and knowing that industry a little bit more, like I see that. I don't know in fashion, but like I love that you've had that, like, the rules, you'll do the thing, you'll be humble, but then you have these moments where you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna go do it better.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so you're in New York, you're earning your stripes, you're making it work. What happens next?
So I ended up moving back to LA with BCBG. So I had been promoted to run, another division. And I was like, I'm ready to not do another New York winter. And it was like, it was probably just shy of 3 years. Like I got my New York, and I was still going there all the time. So I still like got my New York in, and came back. And it's basically a journey of brands, like BCBG was so formative because it was my earliest, biggest, longest, and I was kind of really immersed in that, probably in like a Stepford Wives way. Like they make you, it's like, or Stockholm syndrome, like they make you kind of a part of it. It's funny, as I built teams and I hired people, these are the lessons you're like, what not to do, how not to treat people, along the way is, how I was treated. And in some ways I was treated well and I was invited into the family, but it's, in a lot of ways you weren't. So it was just this weird.
Yes. That's cool to hear, because I think all of us feel that way of like, are you treated like shit in your role or are you not? And like, it seems like your experience there, I guess what I'm trying to get to, and something that I realized that I haven't clarified yet, is there's a part of your career where I really want to understand where you start to assemble teams. Because I think about the Micah episode where I find out that you're his boss, and it's like, I'm understanding now everything that led you to the spot of being the leader that you are. Where does your role come in where you can really step up and be a leader? Or are you already at that spot now in this part of your career?
No, I mean, sort of. I had a really small team. I would say, and fast forward, I don't need to talk through every single thing I did, but I would say I was working for a brand called Seven for All Mankind. This was in like 2006 or 7. So kind of still in the denim heyday before the world crashed in 2008. And I had the opportunity to come, and I was the director of sales for the West Coast. And so I came into the LA office, and it was a bit of a shitstorm. It just wasn't, there was no management. It wasn't the woman that was, it was just not well run. So I had two jobs. One was to improve the business and like organize it and get some processes in place and grow it. And the other was to kind of reassess the team and rebuild the team. And it was pretty insane because you walk into these places and it had been one way for a long time. And so you're the new kid.
Yeah.
Nobody wants you there.
Yeah.
You know, they might think, well, she seems nice enough, but she's going to come in and like fuck with my program here. And I'm getting away with, you know, leaving at 3 or doing whatever I'm doing.
Right. And it very well is your job to come and fuck with the
job.
program and make it better.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. That took an incredible amount of confidence because you just walk in there and you're like, you just know that everyone is like, hates you. And so it taught me a lot about how to go into a business, how to go into a team, how to try to give people the benefit of the doubt when you get there. And some of them, you know, like you just know, and or like in your interview process, they're like, these are some problem spots you're going to have to deal with. But you go in there and you kind of give everyone the benefit of the doubt, because what I also learned, and this was a big thing at Tom's, there were people in there that had been written off and they were incredible.
Wow.
And they had never been given a chance. They had been like put in this like horrible role that they were, of course, like they would have been useless anywhere to anyone. And so you go in and you're like, wait a second, this person just has had no mentorship. They've had no leadership. They've had no purpose. So of course they're not performing.
I just got caught up in my head. Like you said a thing to me that like straight up got me emotional, because I've like always thought that one of my talents was like understanding and seeing people. And as you're explaining this, like I've seen that happen. I've been in a spot where I've been like, this person is a superstar and no one gives a fuck.
Yeah.
And it's like knowing what you've accomplished now, I'm like, oh my God, that's valuable. Like that's
100%.
a thing. Like that's so validating to hear.
It's
like that's
so
crazy
valuable.
that you said that.
And it, you know, you can tell. You can tell when people really want to do this. And then you can tell like there's, you know, the obvious people like, I want a promotion. I've done this. And like, to me, I would rather spend more time. And let's say that that person was performing and doing their job, but this person is so hungry and just like, what can I do? I want to learn. I want to be in it. And those people, I'm like, sign me up all day long. You know, like even if I'm hiring someone for a role that maybe doesn't come from that industry or that they show so much
like
just
care
and like
that,
they're thoughtful. And like there was a woman I hired at Tom's and we ended up having like a 2-hour interview because I was just like, both of us were just asking each other questions. And I was like, because it was for a finance kind of type job. And I was like, you're incredible. Like I can just see you getting in there and the wheels are turning and you may not be like perfect on paper, but you're the one.
That's so rad to hear that reaffirmed by you. So was with Tom's before or after 7?
After.
Okay. So you start there. Like, so you're like, you have this crazy role. You have to come in with this confidence. You know, it's this hard job and you have to step up to the plate and start to run this team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be one of my favorite teams.
Really?
Like, I loved my girls. Like I loved them so much. And it's interesting because in fashion, like you talk about this, you have like the East Coast and the West Coast, and you have like the East Coast buyers have a very different personality and approach than the West Coast, and same with the teams. And I just built a kick-ass team. And I say we became a kick-ass team. Yeah. And it was just, and part of this is the other thing, you have to push people to do their best and be their best. That sounds so cliche, but a lot of times a leader will like dance around things because they're like, oh, they're going to complain or they're this and you're that. And you're like, look, try to explain why you're asking them to do that thing. Try to bring them into the thing you know, don't just throw work at them, try to bring them into the thing and bring them into this whole process. And then they start having ownership in what the hell you're doing. I was
just thinking ownership in my head. Yeah.
You have to. And so they finally, I mean, they'd still bitch and complain about doing the like, you know, things they didn't want to do, but they all got it. And we had so much fun in that office. Like, and I'm still friends to this day, very close friends with a number of those people.
That's so sick.
Yeah.
And at that point, when you did get that team to be at that like really kick-ass level, were you like, oh, I can do that. Like I can run this. I can sift the bad. I can uplift the good. I can put the dream team together. And like, were you starting to understand just how valuable that was?
I did. And what also kind of surprised me, and maybe this is another sort of like I've never really considered myself a people person. I mean, like
Funny.
my sister would see this and laugh. Like, I hated babysitting. I don't want children. I don't like being in crowds. I don't like, I'm just like, I was not a person that would I'm more of an introvert
Yeah.
than anything. And
Yeah.
so I find myself in sales of
Yeah.
all things. And
Funny.
then
I can relate to that.
leading teams.
Yeah.
And I realized I'm like, and again, this will be another theme through life. It's all about the people. And it's the hardest thing. It's the hardest part of any job is leading a team. It can be the most difficult and the most like soul sucking at times, but the most rewarding. And that was my first sort of like revelation. I was like, I really like this. And I'm good at this part.
It's also another thing, like I've learned this more recently, is like leading a team is very difficult. And it's not even like I lead these crazy teams or anything like that, but I'm really learning and understanding the power of a team.
Yeah.
Because when you don't want to deal with it and when there's all the
Oh
drama,
my God.
there's so much of this attitude of fuck it, I'll just do it myself.
Mhm.
But you realize how much that weighs on you, and you realize how much you actually don't get accomplished, or how much less
Yep.
versus a team. A
Yep.
good team
Yep.
gets so much done.
Yep.
So it's like, it's so necessary.
And they'll have your back.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing about, like, to me, a good leader and a bad leader is, when you hire people better than you, hire people that are smarter than you, hire people that know more than you, hire
Yeah.
people that are younger than you, like whatever it is, because they're going to get the shit done, and they're going to have your back. And that was my team at Omaze. Like, we had some really, same with Tom's, by the way, like really challenging stuff. And I had their back, and they knew it, and they had my back, and I knew it. And it was like, even in times where it felt like it was a little us and them with, other parts of the company, which is not ideal, but you're like, at the end of the day, we got each other, and we're going to figure this out.
That's so sick. Oh, that's so sick. I love that. And I think that's such a show of confidence too, to be like, yeah, like I'm going to hire the younger person that's better than I am and all that. Like, because then, I mean, God, you see how many times egos play into things and how much people will be threatened by that.
Yeah.
But for you to be like, no, that's the ticket. Like, that's what wins. Fuck, that's sick.
Yeah.
Was it hard to leave 7? Why am I'm not saying the full
7 for all mankind, but 7.
Was it hard to leave that then if you like had this incredible team?
It was. And, this is another kind of, I guess, life journey situation. So I was pursued to come over to True Religion to be their VP of sales for the whole country. And, again, when you're talking about products, like I also loved the product. Like 7 made some incredible denim. And, True Religion wasn't so much,
really
our thing. I don't know if it's even on anyone's radar anymore, but it was like the big stitching and the big pockets. And
I remember. I think it was like a buckle in the mall.
It's got all kinds of shit on it. Yes, it was definitely there.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, I was so ready for you to say that was Tom's. Like, you've really like done it all.
I have gone around.
That's crazy.
And fashion's hard. And this is the thing too, I would say, and I think things are different again, because it feels like now it's more acceptable for people to move jobs. Like, it's like you stay in a job for maybe 2 years and like people are going to go try, especially in like the tech, digital space. So 7 had been bought by a big company called VF Corp. They own like North Face and a bunch of other companies. So that had changed a little bit, but like a company like True Religion or even Tom's or Omaze, like they're run oftentimes by people that they were creatives, they were designers, they had a creative vision. They don't know anything about business. They don't know anything about leadership. And so you get into these often really toxic environments where you're kind of fighting, like what I was saying, where you're like, what's the right thing to do? And what am I being told to do? And how do I get my job done and feel good about it? So that was a lot. I mean, I was at BCBG for like 5 years, and then 7 was probably like 2.5 years. And, I didn't love jumping around, but it was like, okay, this is a career move. I'm going to make a career decision.
Seems like growth has been really important to you though. Like, as much as it might be uncomfortable, like you're progressively chasing growth and like almost stepping up to that plate of necessity of like, as soon as you're probably comfortable at a thing, you're like, fuck, I got to change it up.
Which, and it's, it's like, I don't want it to be mistaken for a title necessarily, though that's part of it, and I think after you put X amount of time or years or what have you into something, you're like, I do want something that's going to tell me that I've progressed. But I think too, it is that thing, unfortunately, and I hate to keep saying this, but like for a woman, you trying to find your foothold, even in fashion. Fashion's a very male dominated. There's a lot of women that work in it, but the senior ups and the owners are all men for the most part.
Yeah.
You're just trying to find your way and like try to find that kind of home. And, True Religion, it was another tough one, was founder owned. I ended up meeting some incredible people and revamped, both showrooms on the East and West Coast, but ended up actually getting laid off. They fired me because, this is life, because the owner wanted to hire a woman that would go party with buyers, like do coke and go party with them instead of doing like the right thing for the business. And he's like, well, that'll get the buyers to buy more. He was like fucking old school.
Oh my God. I feel so validated in your story of just, entirely different lives with small parallels of like, wait, so I'm being penalized for having like good values.
You're like, I don't snort coke on my job. Okay. Got it. Yeah.
But again, why I'm so fucking stoked to have you on the podcast is like, you set an example for how good it gets and like the growth. And it's like the like, no, trust me, like it works out. So it's like, it's just, you've lived the experiences of those highs and those lows.
Yeah.
So is that Tom's? I want to hear you about being Micah's boss. I need to hear about this.
I'll fast forward, but so I got fired and I was like, I've never been fired. What do you mean I got fired? Like you just, and it's like, no matter what the reason, whether the company lays off 1,000 people or it's just you, it is just like, it's a gut punch and you're just like, wait, what? It was another one of those like go to New York moments where I was like sitting there and I was like, I'm going to start my own business.
What? Whoa.
I don't do that. Like, I'm not an entrepreneur, like by nature, or at least I didn't think I was. So I realized in the industry, and this was the True Religion experience, it was so unintelligent. Like fashion is so unprofessional in a lot of ways. And I was like, I could really go in and help people really build their brands, organize, get them from a business perspective, help them build, their seasons in a more kind of organized and professional manner, help them with their lines, help them with merchandising, all the things. So I started my own consulting business and and this was like in 2011 or something. And it was the most freeing thing in the world. I was like, wait a second, I don't have to go into an office. I don't have some maniac calling me on my, drive in telling me why I'm not sitting in the chair.
Yeah.
And, it's scary. Like you have to go constantly hunting for new business. It's a different kind of, scary, but it was incredible. And I, was working with small businesses. And this is where I started to dip my toes into cars again.
Oh,
because
go on.
A good friend of mine, Charlie Frank, he has a marketing company and they do all like automotive stuff. And so he was doing a lot of work with BMW. And I was like, well, I've got some time. And so we would go organize all of these like ride and drives, private track days. You'd go and we'd set up like autocross courses and like Excel, decel things. And so customers would come out and try all the new BMWs.
So like very OG, like what I'm thinking of like Porsche Experience Center, like early days of that kind of experience of like, here's our new sick car, come properly drive it.
Yep. I remember sitting there, I had to go meet the transporter in Carson or something at a parking lot. And this guy drops off like 20 BMWs. And there was like, this was like the M235 or 230, what did they call it? 235M. No, M235. Like it was like earlier 2 Series. And all these cars, and I'm like, well, what do you do when you're sitting in a parking lot with, 20 BMWs? You go and you do, donuts. And it was such a blast working with them, and they're hustlers. And they, so I instructed, took customers out, and then we would do like autocrosses and i3s, which was awesome.
That's so
like burn
sick.
through tires, like tall, skinny tires on i3s. And then I would help them manage some of the, like they would do these dealer programs. So help them, work with the dealers and manage that shit that they like weren't that good at. And I was like, well, let me help you do that.
Cause you had the experience of dealing with like that side of business of like insert fashion versus dealer, like kind of same structures, things like your skill set kind of just naturally applied at that point.
Yeah. Which I also realized I'm like, don't go work for a dealership.
Yo,
Don't meet your heroes. It's
really?
like, oh God. Yeah.
I have no experience, but I
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's something that you said very casually there, which is so funny to me, is like you were doing driver instructor stuff. So like obviously you had loved cars, but like that's an undertaking. That's a thing.
Yeah.
Did that just come natural to you, or?
I had gone through, what have I had, like 5 iterations of E92 BMW. So I finally, like in 2007, I think I got like, it was the first gen E92 328.
Yep.
And then I got the 335. And then I got the 335 IS. And when I got my IS, which I loved and I wish I never got rid of.
Such sick cars.
Such a great car. I went out for my first track day.
Yeah.
I did that in the 335. I went to Danny McKeever's Fast Lane at Willow Springs because I'm like, I've always loved this. I have always been an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
I rolled my Fox Body Mustang in high school.
Holy shit.
Landed on my roof. I used to race people like, and this is insane. I used to race down in a full-size Bronco with my friend in her 240Z down a one-way street, like on the side. Like we were crazy. And I've just always been like an adrenaline junkie and loved driving fast.
Yeah.
By that time I had done a couple schools and then I went and did, I think I had done 2 M schools. So I did the M school and the advanced M school out at Thermal. So I spent a lot of time in cars. I've been on, when I'm saying instructing, like these are people that literally don't know how to drive. So you're like, okay, this is, stomp on the throttle, stomp on the brake,
like,
try to teach them.
Look at this cone as you throttle through. Like,
don't fly through the fence, So it was pretty, but it was still, it was really fun. And it's just like fun to watch people kind of light up when they see what these cars can do. And
and they understand the dynamics and like how to actually control a car.
Yeah. So that was a blast. And that was kind of like starting to tiptoe my way into like, okay, at some point I still don't know how to do it. Still have no idea how to do it. And, but it was really nice. And we would go out to like Button Willow and, teach and
So sick. So then at this point,
you didn't expect the longest career story ever, did you?
I mean, it's insane. It's cool to me though, because like I'm obsessed with this. And I think it's actually so helpful because now, at least to me, I feel like you see these people and it looks like they do one thing and they've done one thing forever and they have it figured out. And you sit there and you're like, must be nice. So like when you understand like every bit of what it takes to get to the spots and to have the career you've had, it's like, nah, like go enjoy the journey. It's part of it.
Yeah.
So you own your own company. You're doing more with BMW and experiences. Are you still doing fashion stuff? Are you like, yo, it's pivot time? Or are you like, oh, this is cool. I get to do all my stuff.
Yeah, no, I was still doing fashion. I still had a couple clients. I was like pretty full time with a client that had the Guess handbag license. And we had licensed and started a whole new line. So we had like built out this whole new brand. So that was taking up most of my time and then doing some of the stuff, on the weekends. And then I got approached by Tom's.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that had to have been a pretty rad offer if you were like pretty fulfilled and doing your own thing, huh?
It was hard. And this is where, the company that I was advising for, when I told them, they were like, we'll double the offer. We'll pay you like an absurd amount of money if you stay and you do this and, please don't go. And again, it's like one of those sort of career decisions. And you're like, okay, one, it was it was really a step up in career. It was a step up in visibility. It was a step up in salary. It was all those things. It was secure. It was taking over a massive team, a socially responsible business. It was a mission-driven company that was, that was interesting, of course. And the man who ended up hiring me, his name is Laurent Potvin, and he was the president at the time. And I just really liked him. And I really liked a number of the other executive team that I was interviewing with. And it was scary because I knew what the situation was. This is kind of the brand. I had this knack of coming into brands like as they're sort of at their peak and potentially kind of, I became a fixer. I was like, when am I going to hit the thing where it's like, you
get to do the come up. Yeah.
So it was kind of at that. It had run its like crazy course. There was this massive team of like independent reps that were kind of out of control. There was a big internal team and it was a little bit like that Seven feeling where you walk in, you're like, oh my God, I have to now go and figure these people out. And nobody wants a new boss there because they all were making shit tons of money just doing their own thing,
Doing whatever.
but very unorganized.
And this is funny because this ties in because Micah started there as an intern, right?
Yeah.
So he watched the come up.
Oh yeah.
And then you come in a little bit after that at a very high level to kind of wrangle it back and like teach this company what to do next.
Yeah. I will say this, not because Micah is a friend, but Micah was rad from the beginning. And this is the thing, right? You get in there and he was just like this young, you're like, how is this person this creative? How is he like this mature? How is he this, he was one of those people that you're just like, I don't totally know what you do here yet, but keep doing it because you clearly are good at this. And he was one that, and this is sort of the divide, right? It's the team, that people that are like, okay, I see where this is going and I'm either going to embrace it and try to be a part of it and help this, new person define it. I'm just going to fight and, just be a pain in the ass, in which case,
right.
That's the direction.
Like, I knew the good life. I'm not changing it up. Deal with it kind of thing. And it just wasn't it.
I think people like Micah, that's why Micah landed where he did. That's why he is who he is now and has created, his incredible business, because he just had that ability to come in and sort of just accept change, but then also try to be a part of it and inform it. Where if like, look, you've got an opportunity to help define where this goes rather than just sitting there digging your heels in because you're not going to be a part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, what's your title at Tom's?
It was SVP wholesale, I think. So that was US. I had US and Canada.
So like, because I don't know, I've never had the experience working at such big companies like that. How high up is that? Like, how many people do you answer to? How much of a team are you leading? Like, I just want to like understand the picture of how much of a boss you are at this point.
So that's executive, and different companies, different titles mean different things. So sometimes you should be a little careful. Like at Adidas, I was a senior director, which is a very senior title. So like you have a VP, which there's very few at Adidas, and then you've got like, executives or like C-suite kind of levels. Where at Tom's, I was one of the senior executives, so I reported to the president. Then there wasn't anyone else left.
So very high up.
Yeah. So I was the head of, so like most companies will have like a head of their function. So I was the head of sales. There was like, the head of design, the head of e-com, the head of giving, that kind of a thing. So yeah.
Damn. And how much of a team were you running?
That was a big team. So they had, I want to say like 25 independent reps. So that means they're out in the territories, selling. And then we had 12 to 15 internals. Whether it be over like, so there's like the department store sales and then there's the, specialty store sales. So
damn.
Yeah. And then your planners and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a big team. And then Tom's went through a private equity buyout. So that it was privately held. So the CEO, Blake, had the whole thing and then sold, 49% of the company. And so then you start battling like, okay, the right thing to do is to not go into this level of store, right? But now we have to, because we have revenue targets to hit. We have to do these things. So I was like, that's going to kill the brand. And you haven't even done this over here. And like whether it's like the different product mixes, like the brand had become stale. And so we try to do all this like new product, we're trying to up level like the marketing and the materials. Cause there's like, this shit has been the same for 8,000 years and people are really tired of the brand. And it was kind of the same at True Religion. You're like, modernize, push forward, like make it
be the same thing forever.
Yeah. Like people want to stay with the brand, but there's nothing new for them to engage with. And so that was a battle because oftentimes it challenges what they're comfortable with. There's a dichotomy between profitability and some of the other things that might be what you want to do or the more creative things. And you're like, okay, where's the trade-off? How do I do both? And it's often very, very hard. And so, I was able to do a lot of the things, but ultimately, again, like I got into a fight with Blake because he was like, some dude in some investment meeting told him to go sell to like DSW. And I was like, no. I said, you cannot do that. You haven't even tapped into this tier over here.
Right.
You will kill your brand. He's like, what the fuck? And just went off on me. And I was like, fuck you. And I got out of the room and I quit. Not that day, but I quit not long after. And what I did do, and this is kind of, I want to say like a really important and why I'm probably still like alive in my career is I stayed on for 2 months. I helped the person who came in. I traveled. I mean, I could have just been like, screw you, I'm out.
Yeah.
And by the way, I walked away from a lot of money because there was, through private equity, there was like they would basically pay you to stay through a certain amount of time. And I was like, my soul, like, talk about Sunday scaries. I'd be in like the fetal position on Sundays and like in tears. And I was like, I can't. And my husband would be like, what is going on? I'm like, I can't go back in there. It is so, I can't look at this man in the eye knowing that he's basically telling me to do something that I like fundamentally, morally won't and don't feel good about.
The word I keep thinking of as I'm hearing this is just integrity. Like, it's like you have so much integrity where you're like, yeah, cool, like, fuck the money, fuck the like whatever. You're just like, I care about this thing and I have my values and I see the path. And if I can't do that, then I'm not going to be here.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, it probably is insane. Like,
but
sometimes.
I mean, however, has that not, like, now the person that you are, the respect that you have in all of your industries, it's like, to the next place you go, I think that speaks volumes. That says everything, where it's like you're willing to walk away from this crazy check and this crazy comfortable life purely because you have integrity. Like, wouldn't a lot of people want that?
Yeah. And I think the thing that what I have done right is, back to the teams, I have treated the people that worked for me.
Yeah.
And most peers, not all peers, we didn't get along, but like, they were everything to me.
Yeah.
And so people would go with me from job to job to job.
So then you'd almost have like this all-star team of like, when you go somewhere, you're like, I can bring you the best.
Yeah.
Because we know each other and like we've gone to battle. And also integrity, thinking about that, like the way you said it, it's like, okay, cool. You get in this fight, you realize you don't have the same values or the same vision. That doesn't mean that the next day you quit and say, fuck you, figure it out. You stayed and you turned over your hat properly and you did everything you could do. Yeah. So even though there was a conflict, you did take that high road still. You
have to, no matter how much you want. I mean, we all have the visions being like, fuck you, and walking out the door. And, like everyone wants to do that. You cannot do that. Like it is, because no matter what, the world is small. I mean, the automotive industry is tiny. Like, I mean, you know how many people that we all know in common, you're like, whoa, how do you, and same with fashion. And it was like, if you start burning those bridges, you're fucked.
Yeah.
I left Tom's, and the reason I got the Omaze job is because Micah reached out and put me in touch with the recruiter at Omaze. And then the woman that was the head of finance at Tom's was the CFO at Omaze.
No way. And talk about like your story earlier of like the younger kids that you're like, yo, you're the best, like not being threatened. Like, here's Micah, this young kid, and you just see the world in him and you're like, yo.
I mean, Micah, by the way, Micah changed my life. Like, Micah changed this. The leap to Omaze. So I wouldn't even go in, like I did go to Portland and I worked for Adidas, and it was an incredible experience on, many, many levels. Portland is terrible and cold and rainy and not for me and not good for cars.
But just by the way, that you also worked at Adidas.
I also worked for Adidas, which was rad. And it was kind of the pinnacle of, if you're going to be, it's like basically Nike or Adidas. It's sort of the pinnacle of, let's call it's not fashion, but like it is kind of fashion, but apparel, and I was like, okay, I have done it all. Yeah. I have been from the tiny to the large. And I'm like, now we came back to LA. My poor husband, drug him back and forth. And
he's just down for the ride.
He was down for the ride. I mean, he was here. He was in LA a lot as it was like dumping snow in Portland and sending me pictures from Manhattan Beach. And I was like, if you send me one more picture, don't come home, as I'm shoveling snow off the car. It was another like incredible, spent a lot of time in Germany, spent a lot of time learning how to navigate these, really big brands and like pretty high level of professionalism. So like overall, it was like, okay, I did that thing. I realized that I should never leave Los Angeles again. It is where I live. So when I came back, I was like, I can't go back to fashion. I'm done. It's like, you're like, I feel like if I'm not learning something anymore, what's the point? And you should always be learning something, even at like this level in a career. Like if you're not learning something, what are you doing? I just felt like I had done it. And I was just like, I don't feel like I'm learning anything anymore.
Not everybody has that mindset. Not everybody gets that far and will still push themselves and take risks because they're not learning. Like you've clearly had some times in your career with status and titles and I'm sure salaries where you could just put your feet up and be like, we're chilling. We don't need to do the learning thing anymore. We're
Right.
chilling.
But I will say this too. This is another, my old lady words of wisdom. Like the higher up you go, the more they own you. So everyone wants to, be a manager, a director, or this, or that. The more the more senior you are, the more that's expected of you, the more you need to deliver, the more you're on the hook for the results of the company. If you lead teams, like you are. So that's the sort of other thing about like kicking up and chilling. Like at Omaze, the leadership team, we worked 7 days a week. Like we never, like it was very rarely that we had time to stop. And it's like, and I think that that's one thing. It's like, as you think about this,
that's crazy. That's
think about that as you like want to grow. Like there might be a point where you're like, I'm good here. Like I don't want all the responsibility.
That's definitely like, again, love this podcast because I selfishly get to learn so much. And like you said that to me and I'm like, yeah, damn.
And it might be okay. And it might also be the company and it might be the leadership. And it really does all start with the top. But, it's something that I learned. I was like, oh, this all sounded really glamorous. And
yeah. And then when you have that responsibility and you're that high up and the results are tied directly to your name, you're there on the hours and the days. And you're just like, okay.
Yeah, you got to be there.
Relationship with Micah being so incredible. You do go to Omaze, you come back from Portland and you're in LA. And this is kind of where we meet as well, because my big shout out is Race Service. Like Race Service is the spot that changed my life. And like I came in at a time where Race Service was doing a lot with Omaze. And for me, my POV is I show up and like I know like audio off of doing this podcast and like they're all my friends and like they see something in me. Like again, of like we don't fully know what you do, but you show up and we like you. And I was just down to do whatever. And they're like, hey, like some of these videos, like we have dialogue, but then we also have car sounds and all that. Like I was like, yeah, sure, I got you. And like I'm like figuring it out, like recording cars and all that. And it's just this company Omaze. And it's like every time I'm called to do an Omaze shoot, it's something different and crazy where it's like we're parking an E30 M3 in a skate park doing something with P-Rod.
Right.
Or we're like going out to Angela's Crest with Justin Bell and some crazy Toyota, like off-roading. Like every shoot, I'm just like, we're doing what? And then I end up meeting you and I'm like, you're our Omaze person. Like you're the one that lets us get these crazy cars and do this fun stuff. And it was this moment where I didn't even like, I'm in real time learning everything you've done and all that. And I didn't even process it really. Like I was just like, oh, that's cool. Like, oh, what up? Cool. Like that's sick. We get to do stuff with you.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy now to hear everything you had been through and then getting to Omaze. And I am curious, how do you as Omaze Sarah, like what were you running there? How does it tie into Race Service? What is your role there? You're also at this different spot in your career where you're out of fashion, you're back in LA. That must have been a pretty interesting time in your career too.
It was. And it's scary. Because all of my contacts and networks, were in fashion. They weren't in automotive. And I was like, fuck, how am I going to do this? So finding myself at Omaze, like it was the weirdest job ever. I could have never written the job description. It was, my title was SVP of merchandising. And what they had done is they had, been doing all the celebrity stuff and they realized that like prize-based campaigns like cars were actually more effective and actually less chaotic because you didn't have to like herd celebrities, that we weren't paying.
So like instead of going to dinner with George Clooney, you win a car.
Yes, exactly. So it was like the business was called Owned because we sort of thought we could own our own destiny. But so they had been doing this for like 3 or 4 months. They had enough success to say, okay, this is the right thing to do. So we now need somebody to come in and actually turn this thing into a business. And so I'm sitting there and I was like, wait a second. So I'm using all of my business experience. It is like there were a lot of parallels to merchandising and fashion and setting up kind of our quarters and our seasons, if you will. But then you're like, but I'm also really responsible for coming up with the cars and the ideas and the creative and all this stuff. And at the time, I didn't even know to what extent I would be pulled into that. So I'm just sitting there like looking at cars, because you're like, it always had to be something special. It had to, could not just be a base model something, unless it was the newest or the only or the, so.
Yeah, they were always pretty cool.
They were really unique. And so, you know, we had electric Broncos, we had, you know, the electric 912, we had the, you know, FJ40 Land Cruiser, we had the 365 or the Tuttle Porsche that was built. Like we, you know, there was there's a million, you know, the GT3 RSs that, I mean, you name it. We did 8,000 G-Wagons and, you know, so it just, I sat there and I had so many pinch me moments. And I remember sitting on the plane going to the Indy 500. I was a kid in a candy store. I was like a small girl again. You're like, I cannot believe, in fact, I was answering questions for that Forbes article. And I was like, I cannot believe I'm sitting on a plane. Going to the Indy 500, where I put together this deal with Greg, our head of biz dev. Like, we put together this deal to have Omaze on an IndyCar, which I'm like, IndyCar is my favorite motorsport series. With, you know, we'd already worked with JR. We, you know, like, I'm just like, Max is meeting us there. We're it was like OG kind of, you know, you're in the mix. I mean, I was
answering your Forbes interview on your flight there. You're like, I mean,
what? Like, and this is like the thing, you're like, oh my God. Like, and this is that young kid again. That's that like passion that comes up and driving into the speedway. I was like, it was like magical for me. And I was like, how is this work? You know, and they're like, oh, this is what they say. If you love your job, then it doesn't feel like work. Cause I had never felt like that before.
So that far into your career, that
took me
much
that long.
Accomplishment, owning your own business, fucking running shit at Tom's and Adidas. And even that much further into your career, you then find another moment of fulfillment where you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. I was like, this is my purpose. Like,
damn.
It felt like it was just one of those crazy, that whole trip was just like, I cannot believe like that was the Omaze dream experience. Like, that was a bucket list thing.
You won your experience.
I won my totally. I was like, I've already done my thing, you know?
So then with that, like, what was your title at Omaze? You said it.
SVP merchandising.
So then again, you're running a big team.
Yeah.
And then you're responsible for the prize-based stuff. So it wasn't actually just cars too. It was like houses and everything. Right?
Yeah. So at the time we did travel, and then during COVID, we did like Pelotons and, you know, we'll build out your new kitchen and your office, you know? So we did some other kind of crazy stuff, but then it pivoted into houses. And so my role kind of began to grow. And this is, you know, to get to race service, I realized like Omaze had done things kind of one way. So they had done all these sort of pranky, goofy videos around the celebrity stuff. And it worked for that. And it was, you know, it went viral and it was funny. But when it came to cars, like, you know this, and this is why race service is everything, right? Because they just live and breathe car culture. Car people can sniff out cheese and shit and inauthenticity real fast. And so, you know, here we are trying, and then the problem with Omaze is that we had a lot of trolls. We had a lot of, you know, people that thought it was a hoax. And so like, no one can win this thing. No, you know, it's like, this is bullshit. And so I'm like, look, we need to build trust. Right. We need to get out there and show people that because everyone's like, who does this? You know, and I'm like, you know, and then Brendan came on board. So I'm like, you got two people that live and breathe cars that are literally like, we are doing this. Right. So I'm like, we need to up level our content. We need to up level our storytelling. And we really wanted to turn Omaze autos into kind of a brand. And so Max. So shout out Motoring Club. I had just bought my E92 M3.
Let's go.
And I was dropping it off at the Motoring Club, I think the day I bought it. And Max was there. And for this is kind of obviously early and we hadn't met, and he pulls up and we're chatting. And I was like, oh, you're race service. I was like, I think we wanted to talk to you. Like, and I hadn't done a Rise and Shine.
Oh, wow. Early
days. And so I was like, oh, that's what you do. Because you guys thought we were a hoax and I didn't fully understand what race service was doing. And I was like, let's talk. And then I was like, oh shit. So then I think Brendan and I came over and then cut to, I brought Matt Polson, who is our CEO at Omaze, over to meet with James and Jacob and Max. And because, you know, especially James, right? He's such a dreamer.
Yeah.
And a creative, and like, you know, so I think, and Matt is also a creative, you know, and a storyteller. So I think they kind of hit it off. It was a little polarizing because we had this in-house content team that knows nothing about cars. And we worked with some of the guys, kind of some external guys, but it shook things up. It definitely shook things up.
I love that. And that explains so much. I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of you at Omaze in your role. Do you think that that's like being such a senior there and being in touch with culture enough to find a race service and connect that piece? I feel like that's massively valuable. And that takes somebody who lives and breathes the culture to know it. Has that been one of those skills in your career of just like you can come and at this super high level still be in touch with culture and know like how to keep something authentic? Because I feel like that's really valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's where it comes down to, Adidas was like this, and this was a good training ground there, right? Because we had to take so that the product that we were making was not resonating with the customer. And so it was everything that we were trying to do was like revamp the product, but then also figure out how we tell the story, right? How we market it. And, Germans that don't really understand US sport and culture. So we're kind of like trying to figure out how we balance that. And that was a really good experience for me. And I lived it. Like I lived and breathed. I mean, I loved the brand. I lived in the product, all the things. So coming to Omaze, I think this was one of those moments where the thing that you want to do and you believe in is also the right thing for the business.
Ooh, after you've chased that for so long.
Yes.
That was a moment where it aligned.
Yeah. Tricky because the thing that I needed to change was not under my purview. So this was like the content and the marketing. And that was such a big part of what Omaze did to achieve what I had to achieve, which is essentially the business side, is the hitting the revenue, making sure we had all the experiences, making sure everything was dialed to launch them and hit our targets. That content marketing piece had to work. So it was like definitely a lot of lessons in how to wrangle things, how to get what you need and what you want when it's not something that is like yours to take or tell or, have the authority over. So it was tricky, but it definitely was that thing where you're like, I know this is the right thing to do. And we saw it, like we saw the results that it was going in the right direction.
I think that's the lesson where I'm like, oh my God, where your integrity yet again, where you're like, I need to be in a spot where I can know what the right thing is to do and have that be supported and to like be able to execute that. Now you're not at Omaze. Mm-mm. And that sounded like it was a pretty incredible experience. And this kind of brings us up to current.
It does.
So where are you at right now? How did that shake out?
So Omaze was going to shift kind of full-time, let's call it, to houses. And I'll just say it was not done in the best way. And this was, so long story short, there was like some things that were not going so well on the business side. And so I was trying to like kind of see how that was going to shake out. And I also knew, and I'm like, look, I want to be in the automotive business. And so if this turns out to be
integrity
a house sweepstakes site, like I want nothing to do with this. Talk about like
your values,
boring. Like So that kind of was going that direction. I lost my husband, in early 2022. And so very suddenly. Yeah. And so I basically left. I took bereavement. I went back for a little bit and saw kind of the writing on the wall. And, there's a lot of things in life that teach you things. This is the worst possible lesson. But what it does teach you is it's the cliche turns out to be true. Life is incredibly short. And when I went back to Omaze, I was just like, no way. Your
perspective was just absolutely different.
Completely different. And it was like, if I didn't tolerate bullshit before, I have zero tolerate, cannot tolerate it now. I basically have taken the year. I started working with 000, who are rad humans. So we'll be talking more about that. So helping them with a lot of like some strategy, partnerships, collaborations, and got connected to them, through mutual friends. And that has been it's been soul saving for me because they're incredible people. And we've really learned, I'm like, wait, I need you. You need me. Okay, let's work together. And, I'm very grateful for them. And am now I'm working with, so this is the people, this is the Don't Burn Bridges story. So my former president at Tom's, who left, is back in LA and is now the CEO over an automotive brand. And so we have been talking about working together. And I was like, wait a second, did you like cars? Did we talk about cars? Like,
no way.
So this is where the universe, I feel it did not do right by me last year. It shows up in very strange ways. And the people that you have in your worlds, you know, like you're going to have shitty people and you're going to have people you hate and you have people you're never going to talk to again. But like how you conduct yourself through these journeys and these things, like I have people that kind of, like my mom was always, it's so crazy. Like all your old bosses come and call you again. I'm like, yeah, I guess I did right. And, you know, somehow, some way along the way. And so, yeah, that's kind of the next, we'll see. I'm not sure exactly what we're doing, but yeah.
I'm so inspired in hearing all of this because like, again, I keep coming back in my head to this word integrity. It's like, well, yeah, no shit, they're calling you back. But like you reaffirm so many things that I've felt of like, keep your integrity and to not compromise. And I mean, fuck, like the real life lessons that you've learned and experienced, and like life is short, and like doing the shit you love. Like when you speak from such a place of authority and experience, it just hits different. But it's really inspiring to me because I think it's easier for people to talk about this stuff and to say this stuff when they haven't accomplished it. But you've walked away from so many things just to chase what matters. So it's like, it really, really inspires me to just keep following my own internal compass. And I hope that other people take that away because you've accomplished so much, yet it's still evolving. Like you're still doing it and you're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
So I guess that never really goes away, huh?
It doesn't. And I would say that, you know, the one thing it sounds like, and I have, like, sometimes I get exhausted, you know, thinking about my journey. But the one thing that I'll say is you can't be afraid to just, you do have to like put in some time, and you do have to put up with some shit. And you do, you know, through that, it doesn't mean like, my God, if you're in any kind of like horrible abusive situation, not what I'm saying, but I do think that there is a kind of, I think younger people coming into the work world now kind of have this like, well, if it's not perfect or it's not exactly what I wanted, or don't have this or I don't have that, I'm out. And I was like, give it a minute, you know, give it a minute. Maybe it's not the exact thing that you wanted, but it may give you something that's going to kind of do this, right? It's going to lead you to the thing that you might, or a person that might. And I think that's the weird thing about the world. And, you know, I've gotten my ass kicked a lot. And it's been this lifelong journey to build up enough confidence now to know that I'm like, I'm actually really good at this, because you question this all along. You just question it. And now like this next chapter, whether it's 000, whether it's this other project, like I can actually do this. Like I can actually make a difference. And it's in this automotive space that I love so much. And I'm like, I think I'm home. Like, I think I'm home, which took a really long time.
That's so sick.
Yeah. And it's about the people though. Like the best thing about Omaze were the people that I worked with and the people that I met and the paths that it took me to, and the fact that I had just had coffee with J.R. Hildebrand, who I consider a friend, you know, and that I can call up Justin Bell. And this is not a name drop thing. Like these are people that I have so much respect for. And I'm like, the fact that they give me the time of day now, and I'm like, okay, you did something right. Yeah. Okay. I must be doing something that they value. And it's kind of everything.
That's amazing. Like, again, that just like, it really reaffirms how important that is. After everything you've been through and all the things you could have been like, no, this is what I care about. Like that really says it. And it's also, I love understanding and hearing this chapter, because it's like you went out and you won the game in fashion and apparel. And then you kind of like started to scratch the itch of automotive and like did something really special with Omaze. And then it just didn't, you know, whatever, the company changes, life changes. But now it's like, that's given you enough to be like, all right, yeah, I'm home. I know where it's at. Yeah. But now you have all the experience and everything else you did. So whatever you end up doing is going to be fucking sick. And you have your people.
It's all about the people. It really is.
So many parallels in your story. Like, yeah, of course I relate, and I talk about cars all day long, but like, I don't know swimming. I don't know that side of the fashion that you got into. I still feel so many parallels of the story. So I like really hope that helps inspire others to take some of those lessons.
Yeah. I love nothing more, especially for young women, you know, to be of any help, be an ear, be a mentor, you know, because it is no matter what industry you're in, it is hard. It is hard, and in that confidence building and all the pressures, and especially for younger women now with like social media, like I didn't have to deal with that for so much of my, kind of time. And it's like brutal, and so like, I just like, don't quit, don't quit. And you might have a day where you're like, fuck this, and I'm pulling the covers up and that's it. But like, you'll get back. Just don't quit. And like this past year, I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit life. I wanted to quit everything. I didn't have my best friend and my partner. It's like, how the fuck am I going to do any of this? It's the people. Like, shout out to Ray Service, shout out to 000, shout out to my incredible female friends who are warriors and just like kept me standing, and like, that's what it is about. So lean on people, ask for help, ask for advice, because sometimes you're just too proud. Yeah. You're like, I'm not going to do it. Like, go find someone who can like be your person.
That was bars. That was really good. All right. This was really cool.
Oh, it was fun. It really was. Yeah. Thank you.
And it's like, again, it's like personally, I'm sitting here and I feel validated. I'm learning, but I also hope that anybody listening to this, right? Like some young woman that's about to go crush it, or anyone. Somebody years in business that just needs to be reminded. Like I love doing an episode where I feel like we put like value out into the world. And I think you really did that. So thank you for your time and thank you for sharing that.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. So last thing, because this was so helpful. If anybody at the end of this episode is like, oh my God, Sarah, thank you for every bit of this, and has a question or just wants to say thank you, is there a spot they can hit you up?
Yeah, probably just DM me on Instagram.
Yeah.
That's probably the easiest. And it might take me a sec. I'm not always the fastest on responding, but yeah.
Honestly, good. Social media needs a balance.
Yeah. I kind of got off of social media last year, but I'm starting to like get back on. So yeah.
Cool. I'll link it in the description, but what's the tag?
It's at SL Lassek. So SLLASSEK.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.